Harry,
Oh, mate, you all right?
how are you, mate?
How's it
Good
going?
to see you. Yeah, I'm just having a little plug-in over here. Yeah, I'm very well, mate. How's it going? How are you?
Yeah, not bad, cheers, yeah.
Good
Trying to think
man.
when we spoke. Is it nearly 2 years ago or something?
Mate, I've got a feeling it might be four.
Really? Let's have a look.
Wasn't it like in deepest lockdown?
I feel like he's either 2020 or 2021, I think.
Yeah, it feels, I mean, because like all I can remember was where I was when we did it, and that feels like quite a while ago, mate. And also just like it was yesterday, so all good.
Yeah, yeah, yes. But yeah, you doing well?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, yeah, life's good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It was April 2021, apparently.
April, there you go. There you go. That's a year or so. It's 3 years, not as bad
Yeah,
as
get on for 3 years, yeah.
that's weird, isn't it? It's
It's a
like I
bit
still,
mad, yeah.
well, it's just like I still get a message saying like, "Oh, that 22 grand pod that you did is absolutely amazing." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, no worries." Like I did it yesterday.
Oh, nice one. That's good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. How are you, mate? How's everything going?
Yeah, right, yeah. I actually took a leaf out of your book recently and I stopped drinking like last May.
Okay, there you go.
So wouldn't like I don't look back on it as like I had a problem, but it
Yeah,
just doesn't feel like it doesn't fit in my life anymore. Like I had a bit of a perspective changing hangover.
I love that, mate. That's my story as well. Yeah, perspective change in a hangover is quite literally my story. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
I'm
man, that's
quite
great.
enjoying it to be fair. Yeah.
Are you getting all right?
Yeah, I mean I'm not that social anyway, so it's not like a big I'm not getting tested every week or anything. But yeah, it's been going all right. Quite enjoying it to be honest.
I'm happy for you, mate. That's the thing. Like I thought it was going to be shit, and then you do it. You're like, oh, actually, this is great.
Yeah, just yeah, my perspective just changed. I'm like you really like I try not hard not to sound like I don't know, a bit preach or whatever, but just start to view it as like poison that you're putting in your body, doesn't it? I don't know why.
Just fucking wasn't doing me any favors anymore.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I was just like, this ain't working for me anymore. I thought like for years it was like, yes, this is awesome. Then it was like, nah, not so awesome anymore. So knocked it on the head. And yeah, man, just I love that thought of how I thought it was going to be the worst thing in the world and like the end of my life. And oh God, how am I going to exist anymore? And then I did it, and I'm like, actually, like, sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had a few nights out and you do end up leaving early, but that's about it really.
That's,
You
that's
just
okay because once I've like had every conversation with everybody that I want to, and then when they're on the third time and telling me the same story, I know it's my time to go home.
yeah, yeah, and you can make the last bus, you don't have to worry about a taxi, so it's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all good as well. I don't need to be there until 5 o'clock in the morning anymore, repeating myself. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you've been up to some cool stuff like how was the Dirty Pretty Things stuff? Was that just one gig in the end?
Yeah, thank you, man. That was really sweet. I mean, it was so, if I'm honest, I was like, come on, Dids, what are you doing, mate? Like, why are you giving me this gig? I wish that Dids, I wanted to see Dids on that stage, that's the whole thing. But for we talked about it at length, and he wanted me to do it. So I took that role, and for a couple of reasons, it was absolutely fucking amazing. Like I got me over my fear of the bass guitar. I think that was a big one for me.
All
Um,
right.
I just used to stare at the bass guitar like in the corner of the house, like, oh, I can't go near you. Like it's been there my whole life. And I stood there looking at it like, oh, and yeah, just to like re-engage with the bass guitar was amazing. And then to do it with, some of my closest friends like Carl and Anthony Rosamundo and Gary, just like amazing. And to learn their songs took a minute, pacing up and down my house with headphones on, like, oh Christ, can I actually do this again? It was great. And rehearsing with them, and it was just the one show in the end. There was going to be some more, but
Did
I
you play
turned
like
out.
a tiny one at the Albion Rooms or something?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We did the warm up at the Albion Rooms. It was really, really sweet. Just in a recording studio there, and people came down and they were like 2 foot away from us, and that was really nice because it was personal and you could like chat to them off the mic and stuff. Which was great. Um, but as maybe you can see from the playlist that I've sent you over of tunes that I like from the noughties, I was the biggest Libertines fan going. I used to follow them to like all their South Coast gigs, you know, and to go from their what I consider to be like their number one fan on the South Coast to like being in a band with Carl's fucking nuts, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Nearly burnt your
And
house down once, didn't they?
the what?
Nearly burnt your garden down once, didn't they, or something?
There was a story that I think is in their autobiography of when their after party from their Southampton Joiners gig at our student accommodation, we had a mental time, and that's how I know them. We invited them back to ours, and there's a story to be read in their autobiography that I will save to try to help them sell books. That yeah, we sort of bonded that night, you know. But and Carl and Dids was there that night as well, you know. So it's really
Oh,
nice.
right.
He was on tour with the Libertines that night. I actually don't know what he was doing there, but he was there. And I think that was the first night that I met Dids, and definitely the first night that I cemented my friendship with Carl, you know. So yeah, it goes back a long way. And then just to be on stage with those guys and to be friends with those guys, to be in their band's amazing. You know, I love them so much.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
And Anthony Rosamundo as well, you know, because he was in Klaxons. He's one of my closest friends, and I know him, met him around that time, and then we went on a very long, you know, deep friendship with each other, and we've been very good friends ever since. And to be in another band with that man, it's just been amazing, you know, share a stage with that man's amazing. So yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. I mean, I'd love to get him on the podcast because he's had a mad career, hasn't he?
I think if anyone is eligible for the 22 Grand podcast, Anthony Rosamundo, please like do that. That would make me so happy to hear that man's stories. You know, he has got a lifetime of interesting stories.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I just want, yeah.
he's been in this game for a long time, and his stories are amazing. You know, how did that guy get in the Libertines? You know, start with that. It's just like
Yeah, I wonder if it's a bit awkward for him talking about that. I don't know. Maybe not now, but
I don't know, but I do know is that he's a brilliant storyteller and a lovely, lovely man. So I think it's a good idea that you get him on the podcast.
yeah, yeah. Definitely be up for that if you're listening, Anthony.
Yeah,
Um,
message.
all right, well, let's get into it then. Obviously, I've asked you to pick, you kind of, do a bit of a deep dive into your favorite naughty songs. And we're starting with The Strokes, Modern Age. Kind of
Yeah,
speaks for itself, I guess, but yeah, what are your feelings about this?
I chose this one because I think it was the one that changed my life really. I was 21 when it came out. I was living with my student friends in Southampton, and I was like, I'd been working in a record shop doing like, you know, a deep dive on musical past, and I was listening to the Velvet Underground a lot, listening to Love, listening to the Stooges, like very much in a kind of 60s and 70s rock and roll phase. And I just picked up the NME one week, and there was that tiny picture of like what I thought was the feature they used to have, but it was basically single of the week in the NME. And so where did I pick up my copy of it? I went to the local record shop and I picked up the 7-inch copy of it and the CD copy of that single. And I got it home and put it on, having read and loved what I'd read about them and just in the single of the week feature in the NME. And got it on, and I was just like, holy shit, like these guys are doing the thing that I wish that I could do. You know, they summed up that kind of American punk spirit, and they just felt like the kind of that they were just doing the thing that I've been looking for the whole time. I couldn't believe it. And I just remember having that CD with I think it's got 3 songs on it. Yeah, I think it's got 3 uh, on repeat constantly in my student accommodation, and was just telling everybody like, this is what is going on. This is the future. And with our friends, like it was kind of a hangover because 2001, like, you know, it felt a bit like a lull for indie music before that came along. And we were all the big change that my friends that I lived with at the time still like to remind me of and make me laugh about was that I came into work one day wearing like skinny jeans and a jacket and a tie, like thinking that I wanted to be in the Strokes, and they were all still wearing flares. And I was just like, guys, like it was that like they brought the idea of a fashion change in. And I went wholeheartedly for it and started wearing suit jackets, ties, and skinny jeans, whilst my mates were all still wearing kind of like looking like they're in Dazed and Confused. And just like calling out my friends were still wearing flares basically and telling them that it was over. And it caused this like it was nothing to do. I worked in a record shop at the time, and we all ditched the flares and started wearing skinny jeans, and all of a sudden really lent into the American punk sound of the 70s and new wave sound of the 80s, and were like living vicariously through those three songs, you know. And that was it. And it was just like, okay, cool. Like, can't wait for more of this. When is the next single? This is the stuff. And then buying the NME every week, religiously trying to find out when the next thing was happening and thinking that we had our own tiny piece of that world in Southampton, which is pretty far away from New York.
Yeah, yeah. Did you get to see him much then at that when they came over?
Yeah. I saw it's an interesting one because I couldn't quite figure it out, but I saw what I thought was maybe their first gig in the UK. I went to Brighton and I saw them play at a place called the Dome, and they were supported by the Moldy Peaches. And we took a van, a splitter van worth of our friends. We hired a splitter van and got someone to drive us down to the gig in Brighton to be there for that. That was like life changing. Like I'd gone there dressed like them and was just like, this is the greatest thing that's ever fucking happened. I'm not sure if it was the first one because I've seen a thing on that guy James Endecott's Instagram where I thought that I was at the first one, but maybe they did another one before. But it was it's the first gig on that tour, and I was there. I made sure that I had to be there because it was the most exciting thing that I was just in. You know, I was very, very in it, and so I went to that one. Then I got on a bus to Prague for 24 hours with my girlfriend at the time because they were playing a gig in the Czech Republic to follow up. And I went out to Prague because they sold beer for 20p in Prague and I could see the strike. So I was like, this is going to be the greatest trip ever. And we sat on the bus. When we sat on the bus for 24 hours to get out there to see that gig. And I think that was it. I think I saw them twice. Maybe there's a third one I can't remember, but basically I was obsessed. And The Modern Age as a song, it was the one that like kickstarted that obsession, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well here it is. Here's the Strokes with The Modern Age. Cool. Then yeah, obviously moving on to your second choice, The Libertines, What a Waster, their first single as well. Yeah, how early did you get into them then? Was that like quite immediate after the Strokes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite figure out the length of time between the two bands, but as soon as the Libertines landed, it was as if we had our own homegrown version of the Strokes, and that was it. I think that I read about it in the NME. Did the single come out before they played the show? I think maybe it was the same week. It must have been. That kind of makes sense. Bands tour at the same time. They put out a single, but they played Southampton Joiners, and well, you know, we were like first people there. I was again like just obsessed. You know, it was like okay, like I want to be in this band, and we're like down the front for their first gig at Southampton Joiners. And I don't know if that story that I was talking about earlier, where they came back to our house, happened that night because I think I saw them at Southampton Joiners twice. Might be wrong, but yeah, I was just obsessed with it to the point that the people that I worked with in the record shop the whole time were taking the piss out of me basically all day long because I'd come into work looking like them, thinking that I was in the band and desperately wanting to be in the band and playing their music all the time, and my friends would rip the piss at me for it, and I didn't care because I thought that that was what I'd been waiting for as a 21, 22-year-old man my whole life, you know. And then What a Waste, single I bought on 7-inch when it came out, the week it came out. And as a man in the depths of doing a bunch of drugs and drinking, I was like, this is my fucking anthem. You know, I was like, oh my God, thank God somebody's fucking singing about me, you know. And I wanted to be the waster that they sing about. And my friends, I was behaving like that, and my friends were all taking the piss at me the whole time. And it was great. And I just loved them. And I saw them, Southampton Joiners, Bournemouth, Mr. Smith's was a really early one that I traveled to Bournemouth to see them as well. And I just followed them whenever they came to town. I was like making sure that I was there. And I, you know, wanting a piece of the action.
Yeah, it's. I
Yeah.
mean, did you ever try and emulate that style then? Because obviously Klaxons is pretty different. Were you?
No, no, I was in like, no, I didn't want to make that style of music. It was just more that they were summing up. I wasn't in a band, I didn't want to be in a band. I've been in bands in the 90s, but I didn't want to be in a band at that time. I didn't want to like find something that would work, but I was just more like a sponge, I was just really, really excited about the music that was going on and just excited about indie music being good again because I was obsessed with it from like 1994 to 1998. And then, and then again, when it felt like it came back around again in 2001, after a couple of years off from me being into dance music, I was just like, yes, this is what I know and love, and threw myself into it. And the indie scene in Southampton was really vibrant at the time. There were like 3 nightclubs that you could go to like 3 times a week, and they'd be playing those records, and that was, I was working in a record shop, going to nightclubs 3 nights a week, and drinking and doing drugs at home on the other nights of the week, thinking that I was in the band when I wasn't.
Yeah, fair play. Have you had much interaction with Pete Doherty over the years?
Pete, not so much, no. I've crossed paths with him a couple of times, but I don't think Pete and I have ever had a conversation. Whereas like Carl, I consider to be like brother to me. I love that man so much. But no, Pete, I've not. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with him. But I'm very, very grateful to be able to call Carl a good friend of mine.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well here's the Libertines with What a Waster. Um, what did you make of the production styles? Obviously that was with Bernard Butler, was it? Um,
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
prefer that style to what the later stuff with Mick Jones or not really?
I tell the difference. But what I do, I mean, I was the biggest Suede fan in the late 90s. Like my band were like a kind of Britpop band, and at the end of it, all I wanted to do was for us to sound like Suede, and that caused a bit of contention in the band. But I was obsessed, and I was like, no, 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 Suede, Dogman Star on the first album, and then coming up, like came out on my 17th birthday, I think, and or the song Trash did, and I was totally obsessed with Suede. And that's that obsession that in it, like, I had for Suede and then again for the Libertines, and yeah, seeing Bernard go on to become a producer, like doing the Duffy record, the Long Blondes records. I yeah, I just love Bernard, big fan. So yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. I forgot. I thought it was Mick Jones that did both, but massive Bernard fan. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's interesting because um similar with Baby Shambles because they recorded with Paul Epworth initially for the first few singles and then they went to Mick Jones for the album.
Mm.
I've always kind of preferred those early demos. Was Baby Shambles something you're into or not really?
Maybe Shambles, I sort of, no, I didn't really pick up on. And it's weird because, like I said, I was obsessed with the Libertines, like beyond. But I think when Baby, I watched that Who the Fuck is Pete Doherty thing recently and I enjoyed watching it. But I realized that at that time, while all that was going on, I think that Klaxons existed at that point in time. And so I just didn't give a shit about anything else, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair play, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then moving on to one that I don't know much about really. I came across the name I think Dan Wilson mentioned them to me actually. And then there's a bit about them in the Meet Me in the Bathroom book, Fisher Spooner.
Yeah, cool.
What can you tell me about them?
So Fisher Spooner were like, they were like the pop version, I suppose, of the Electroclash movement. And they had like the hit of the Electroclash movement, which is the song that I've chosen, Emerge, that was simultaneously out at the same time as the Strokes. Because I remember like going to Brighton to see the Strokes, but also going to a nightclub in Brighton that was called The Tournament, and they were playing Electroclash records basically. And so that twofold thing for me is what makes sense on the journey to becoming Klaxons was that A, I was obsessed with guitar music, but B, I was obsessed with the electronic music that was going on at the same time, and really I was leaning more into the electronic music as something that I wanted to make rather than being a guitar band. And at that time, listening to the Emerged by Fisher Spooner was the kind of hit in a nightclub, and it wasn't a hit at all because like there seemed to be only a handful of my friends that knew what that record was, and when they played it at what's called Nexus, the indie disco in Southampton, it kind of cleared the dance floor. But me and my mates were like, "This is the banger." And they were, I guess they were, what's his name? Casey Spooner. I might get that wrong, but it is a kind of dark, like dark glamour, electronic, dark pop record, with huge electronic production that I was very, very into, and that was it was just like that was probably it was, I was obsessed with the Electroclash movement and all the records around that, but I just think that this one was the one that cemented that love of electronic music at that time that was going on simultaneously with guitar music. So I think it's like yeah, it was like the gateway to wanting to cross guitars with electronic music that we ended up trying to do later.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, well, here's Fisher Spooner with Emerge. And then, yeah, obviously a big one of the era, maybe a similar ilk, LCD sound system. How important were they in terms of your kind of influences?
I think when I heard Losing My Edge, I was working in a record shop at the time, and then to hear somebody talk about all their musical references with the things that we were listening to at the time while I was working in the record shop, I was just like very, very into it. It was like, oh shit, how does this guy know about these cool records? And then also like, oh shit, what's he talking about there? Oh, there's another record that I don't know there. I need to go and check that out because this guy obviously knows what he's talking about, and I want to it was like a like a encyclopedic knowledge of cool records from the past. So like hearing that song, it was both like a confirmation that yeah, I know cool records, and B, like, oh okay, like what's some cool shit that I don't know and I need to figure out. So it wasn't one that was like I remember I was working the record shop in Southampton when it came out, and it wasn't one that was a hit on the indie dance floor in Southampton. But by the time I got to London, it was like the fucking anthem of that period, you know? And that first single for me, being that guy that chooses bands first singles makes me a fucking idiot. But it was that one that it just seemed like it was about the experience that I was having at the time. Much like that's why I've chosen the records I have because they all seem to be like the anthems for the experience that I was having at that time. And yeah, working in a record shop and thinking I was in the Libertines and being cool. LCD Sound System Losing My Edge was more the anthem for that experience.
Yeah, fair play. And
Yeah,
have you seen the Meet Me in the Bathroom film?
yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I did. It was just amazing to look back and see footage from that time and feel if I mean two things. One, it made me feel old, and two, it was just really nice to see footage from that period of things that I didn't get, that just felt connected to. Yeah, I loved it. It was very nostalgic, and I loved it. And it definitely made me feel older. But yeah, highly recommend.
No, I enjoyed it, yeah. And then on to Neil's Children, who we've had on the podcast.
Cool.
Would you say they were an underrated band of the era? Would you say that?
I think again, like I chose this, like my choice of songs for here is like my musical journey through the noughties in a sense. Neil's Children, when by the time I'd moved from the record shop and transferred and was working in a record shop in Greenwich, were the coolest band in London at that time, I think. And we used to go and see them quite regularly. I had made friends with Joe Daniel, who who was running Angular Records at that time, and there was a big scene of people that would go out to nightclubs. There was one every single night of the week that you could go to in London at that time, and there were gigs on every night of the week. And Neil's Children for me were like the coolest band of that period. And I think that their song "Stupid Band" like really sums up what the mood of that time was. That that everyone could be in a band, and people are going to adore you for what you're trying to do, and via that you can have some success. And I was just like I was just obsessed with them. You know, I thought they were the fucking coolest band going at the time, and then I got to be friends with them because Joe Daniels' band, the Violets, supported them on tour, and I became the Violets tour manager. So I drove around up and down the country with them supporting Neil's Children. So they were like the headline coolest band in London. We toured together, and I got to see them every night, which I was super happy with, and then become their friends by the end of it. Yeah, I thought they were the coolest band in London at the time, and this was their stupid band was their anthem. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go. Well, here's Neil. Here's Neil's Children with Stupid Band. Well, that's interesting because you mentioned Tom Ange and the Violets, and that's your next choice.
Yes.
Yeah, well, obviously, well, not obviously, but I hadn't heard of them before. So, yeah, what's the story with them?
So the Violets are a three-piece band from New Cross in 2005. They probably, sorry, Joe, if you're listening, that they probably existed before that. But they have a female singer, drummer, and guitar player, and they were the band of Angular Records who put out Klaxons' first single, founder Joe Daniel, and he was a guitar player, with the singer Alex, and they were, I mean, what do I say about them? They were the kind of epitome of that like post-punk sound with just a drummer and a guitar player. Joe's guitar playing is just phenomenal, and he was like an experimental guitar player where like you were hearing all these sounds and had no idea where they were coming from. It wasn't like straightforward guitar playing, and they were just like raw and confrontational. And the drummer Andrew was just incredible, incredible drummer, incredible experimental guitar player that didn't sound like a guitar, and you didn't know what was happening, and a female vocalist, and it was just like intense, confrontational, and punk, you know. And they touring with them and being friends with Joe sort of taught me that spirit of the time that was just like, don't give a fuck, you know, and just go out there and give it everything, and not be afraid to be like aggressive and confrontational, you know, which I think I took forward. And yeah, I just love them. I was their tour manager. Mirror Mirror, I think I've chosen was their banger. They had a handful of bangers, but this was the one that I thought was appropriate. And yeah, it was the band of the guy that kind of founded the New Cross scene. So from my journey, the at that point in time was being involved in the music scene of New Cross. The Violets were the band that included the guy that was kind of like behind all the records coming out from there at that time.
Yes. And in terms of being a tour manager and what's involved in that, obviously, was it
Uh,
booking the gigs or just managing the gigs or?
No, a tour manager's a funny gig. I mean, the way that I did it was nothing like the tour manager that I eventually ended up having. It was just like making sure that everything was running smoothly, making sure that they were on stage at the right time, making sure they had all the beers they wanted, making sure that everybody was happy, making sure that the vibe was up, communicating with the people at the venue, and being that guy that people can call if they need anything, or yeah, just being the person so the band don't have to speak to the local people or whatever it is. I was just like the guy, the communicator for the thing, you know. And did I drive? I don't think I drove at that time because I was probably drinking. But yeah, I was just like the go-between basically, so that the band don't have to interact with people they don't want to.
Yeah, fair. Wasn't a career that you fancied though, tour managing.
No. Although maybe I could do it now, but I don't know. Nah, but it just gave me the taste for like going out and playing gigs up and down the country. It was amazing to like go to different venues and see the different venues up and down the country, and gave me the taste for hanging out in a van all day with your mates and going and playing gigs.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite a good experience to have before you start the band, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, this is going to be it. Is it sitting in the back of a transit van with your mates hungover for the next however many weeks? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here's the Violets with Mirror Mirror. And then the next one's probably, it's arguably my favorite song to hear on a night out back in the day, Le
Mm.
Tigre,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Decepticon. I
Septicon.
mean, it's pretty timeless as well, isn't it? Even though when you hear it now, it's as good as it was, I feel.
Yeah, I think so. I think Decepticon still sounds amazing. For me, it's the anthem of that period in time. It's the one that kind of sums up going on a night out at that period of time. You'd hear it every single night you went out. And is the one when I look back, I make playlists of tunes back from that time and I have a listen to them. It's the one that stands up and you can still play out, even at a place where nobody's looking to hear music from the noughties. You can play that song and it's like it sounds current and banging still. But it just really summed up the spirit of that time, I think. It felt like the indie dance crossover tune that summed up that combination of like punk spirit, but bands, but done with electronic music that you can dance to.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think if I think back to that period, that's the Decepticon by the Tigre is the soundtrack to that time, which for me was spent in nightclubs in New Cross, and yeah, it's the anthem that sums the whole thing up.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And they did a tour recently, didn't they? But unfortunately, I couldn't go. But that was great.
Mm.
Um, and I think Kathleen Hanna, the lead singer, is bringing out a book soon, which should be interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah,
But
I'd like to read that. I have to admit, I don't know much else about the band. I just know that one song that they've got is the anthem of the generation.
yeah, I know what you mean. I had to work my way backwards a couple of years ago and see what else they've done, but
Mm.
pretty interesting. So anyway, here's Latiga with Decepticon. And then next is Test Icicles.
Mm.
Obviously, Dev has gone on to have like a massive career, but
Yeah.
what are your memories of this band? Yeah.
Um, I think I had the similar experience that I had when I first saw the Libertines. All right, because we were listening to Decepticon in New Cross at nightclubs in New Cross and wherever it was that we went out 5 nights a week across London. The kind of punk spirit with electronic music and throwing yourself about on stage and not giving a fuck was summed up for me by seeing the Test Icicles play one night in King's Cross. I can't remember the venue they played, but I went down, I saw them playing King's Cross and the lights came on for me. I was like, okay, this is it. I just want to preface this with like, I don't mind telling this story because I saw Rory out well recently and I told him, no Test Icicles, no Klaxons. Dev knows that. It's like when I saw them, the lights came on for me and I was like, okay, cool, I get it. Like this is the kind of uh punk spirit with noisy music. They were just literally throwing themselves about on stage, and the lights came on for me, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm ready to start a band. I get it. And I saw like that asking me, did I want to make music that was like the Libertines? It was no. I loved it, but I was into electronic music at the time. And then by the time Test Icicles came out, after seeing them that night, that was when I was ready to form a band. And I was friends with Simon from Klaxons, who was at Nottingham University at the time. And had he already seen them? I don't know, but he was equally as obsessed with them as I was. And we agreed that was the thing that we bonded over, and we are like, okay, cool, yeah, okay, let's do this. It makes sense. Like, there's somebody else out there that's similar to the thing that we want to achieve, and they kickstarted it. They kicked me into wanting to start a band. And my other memory of this song is that I was working at Virgin Records on Tottenham Court Road at the time, and in Virgin Records they have this fucking annoying loop that plays. It plays 15 seconds of a song and then it moves on to the next advert. And the Test Icicle song was on that one afternoon, and I went from, oh my god, this is my favorite thing in the world, to Jesus Christ, I can't listen to this anymore. It's driving me nuts. But but yeah, that band were like incredibly formative in the forming of our band, and I just loved them, and that was it was about the time that we decided it was time to form a band, basically.
Okay, so well, here's Test Icicles with Boa versus Python.
Hmm.
Yeah, nice segue then, because the next song is Klaxons,
There we
Gravity's
go.
Rainbow.
I thought
Uh,
about it
Go on,
once.
yeah.
No, I thought about this in advance.
Ah, nice one. So,
Um,
but why this song in particular then?
Firstly, I feel like a dickhead for choosing my own music.
No, I respect it. Fair play.
Not cool. But, um, I chose Gravity's Rainbow, I think, because it's my favorite Klaxon song, and I think that it's got everything that we kind of try to achieve in that one song. It's the song that, although uh, didn't achieve what the particular song didn't achieve what it was that I set out to. It was the song that we first wrote with the idea of implementing the KLF's How to Have a Number One the Easy Way in the writing. And yeah, I love it so much because it does all the things that we set out to achieve. It's got nonsensical verses with the chorus that everybody wants to sing along to. It's got things that feel familiar. It's got It blows my mind that when we used to play it, the crowd used to sing along to the bass line before it even comes in. And I just think, in that 2 minutes 40, like it sums up the entire spirit of what we were trying to achieve, which was dance music made on guitars. And yeah, for me, it's just like my favorite song. It was the first single that came out on Joe Daniels' label, Angular Records, and it was the thing that kickstarted everything for us very soon after seeing the Test Icicles show. And yeah, and still with the test of time, it's the one that I think sums up that whole period for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I did hear a rumor recently about you maybe getting back together, so I've got to ask you about that, even though it's an annoying question.
Love that rumor. Where did you hear that? Sounds yeah. Oh no, that sounds awesome. No, we're not getting back together. But what we are doing is chatting. It's really great, and we're all back in each other's lives, which is really lovely because we've got that EE advert that's on at the moment. Not over yet. Is on that advert, and what's been great about that is that we're all just back in each other's lives, and we're all chatting. I chatted to Simon night before last, and yeah, it's just really nice to all be around each other again. The idea of us getting back together is not something that we're having a conversation about, the great thing is just being around each other, and it's really sweet, and that's where we're at today.
All right, cool, cool.
Yeah.
And then last song, I think, is it the Scream Let's Get Ravey remix of the Roux song? Is that the one?
Is that the one? Is that the anthem? Like
I
I
think
don't.
so.
Yes, I'm assuming so. Maybe we have to double down on it and have a look. But it's like, it's the dubstep remix of
Yeah,
the
I'm pretty
kill.
sure it's this one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been hanging out with Roux a lot recently. It's been
You've been
great.
DJing with it, yeah.
We've been DJing together, which has been amazing. And I love her to bits. And we were friends before she released her music because we were managed by the same person. So like we've known each other the whole time. And yeah, she it's funny when talking about this because I talk about like music history and like categorizing things and where things fit into music history and what records mean and etc. etc. And she's just like, "What are you talking about, mate? Shut the fuck up." But like this one seems really important to me, and I hope that I don't offend her by saying this, is that it's like it seems like the significant change in the period of time, like from going from 2001 to the Strokes, going through the noughties, and then getting to the birth of dubstep, which this record was the beginning of the birth of dubstep. That feels like the shift in music, you
Mm.
know. And it feels to me as if like the bookending of the noughties is the modern age to the Scream remix of In for the Kill. And yeah, and I love LaRue and I love her for it. And I think that this is a real like signifier. Did it come out in 2009?
Yeah, I've got a memory of that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like those two records are like the bookend of that period. And yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to add was that Klaxons could have had the first dubstep record because Scream made a remix of It's Not Over Yet, and it didn't come out for reasons that I don't understand. And that is a big regret on my part as the years go by because it's like, oh, classic. Like it was there, we had it, and then LaRue's In for the Kill remix came out afterwards, and it was a massive, massive hit and a signifier for the way the music was going, you know. And we didn't have it. But Scream, I check out Scream's remix of Not Over Yet, which is available on YouTube. So yeah, I love LaRue. I love this tune, and I chose it as a sort of the sort of bookend of the 90s and the way the noughties, sorry, and the way that music shifted.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that, but I think I'd put you guys in the middle somewhere. I think you signified some sort of change in
Thank you. I
UK
mean,
now.
I'll take it, you know, definitely. I think 2006, 2007, definitely. Like that crossover of, like, you know, EDM was about to happen, dubstep was happening, and dance music. Like, indie bands had top 40 records up until 2008, 2009, and then all of a sudden, top 40 records were like EDM records and dubstep records. And you were getting less indie bands with top 40 records, you know, having chart success. And yeah, absolutely. We were like part of that crossover, I think.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, well, here's LaRue and Scream with In for the Kill. Okay, mate, that's great. That's great.
Cool.
That'll probably do, really. Unless there's anything you want to talk about in terms of what you're up to, like production-wise or anything.
No, I don't think there is. I've got a few things, but, you know, I prefer to keep it close to my chest, see what happens.
Yeah, fair play, mate. Nice one.
Yeah. Just really appreciate you having me on, man. I love the podcast and love being a part of it. And yeah, thank you very much.
Nah, nice one, mate. Appreciate that. Thanks for being up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be out next. I'll be on Islington Radio next Friday anyway. But I'll do all the tagging and all that nonsense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All that stuff. I'm sure there'll be loads of appreciation, as there was last time I was on the podcast. So yeah, man.
Nice one, mate. Well, I'll let you go anyway, but cheers for that.
Appreciate you, Harry.
Take care.